Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with a really nifty box that's just come out on Eloquence, the Karel Ancerl edition. Remember, Ancerl did a select few recordings for Philips and Deutsche Grammophon in the 1950s and early 60s, and here they all are. And I have to say, it's a very interesting collection, as much for what's good as for what isn't quite as good. The orchestras involved here are the Vienna Symphony Orchestra and the Czech Philharmonic. Now, in the 1950s, the Vienna Symphony Orchestra was always it was until rather recently, actually. Never a great orchestra, not a patch on the Vienna Philharmonic. But in the 50s, particularly, Europe was rebuilding after World War II. Everybody sounded a little scruffy. The Berlin Philharmonic was scruffy. The Vienna Philharmonic was scruffy. Some orchestras were not scruffy. The Concertgebouw was not scruffy. The Czech Philharmonic was not scruffy. But the London orchestra's scruffiness incarnate. That's why Walter Legge founded the Philharmonia, because he was tired of scruffitude. So the orchestras matter a lot. Ancerl was not the kind of demonstrative conductor who was going to put his stamp, a personal stamp of sonority, like Stokowski. He wasn't a chord guy. He was a line guy, and he went for the big picture, for shaping, for proportion, for all of those things. But he was, in many ways, at the mercy of the orchestra in question. So these performances with the Vienna Symphony, while decent, are not great. They're good. They're all right, but they're just not fabulous. And where you can make actual A-B comparisons with the Czech Phil recordings, as, for example, in Dvorak's New World Symphony, the differences are quite marked. And Smetana's, the Moldau or Vltava from Ma Vlast, So here, what do you get? We have 3 discs of Tchaikovsky. You get Swan Lake and Sleeping Beauty suites on one disc, and they could have put the Nutcracker on there too, but they didn't. You get the Nutcracker suite, the waltz only from the Serenade for Strings, Romeo and Juliet, the March Slav, and then the 1812 Overture and Symphony Number 4. No one is going to be thrilled with these Tchaikovsky performances. They are workmanlike. They really are. And it's not a crime, they're just not like thrilling. And Ancerl, I think, wasn't at his best in that repertoire. You'll note on Superfun, he made very few Tchaikovsky recordings. Very few. So there they are. Then you get Dvorak's New World and Smetana's Vltava, the Moldau, and they're very good, but it's not the Czech Philharmonic. And why would you want to hear Ancerl with anybody else when you could get Ancerl with the Czech Philharmonic? Really? Then we've got a disc of Dvorak 8 Slavonic dances and Brahms 7 Hungarian dances. Well, that's very nice. They're very nice. What's not to love, right? They sound fine. But then the heavens open. We're back with the Czech Philharmonic for the last 4 discs. And these are great, and they are worth the price of the box all by themselves. First, the Dvorak Requiem. A stunning performance, marvelous performance of a great work. Ancerl was fabulous conducting choral music, by the way, and he was also particularly good at music evocative of sorrow, suffering, darkness, and pain because of his own history, possibly, as a concentration camp survivor whose family was murdered by the Nazis. He had a certain gift at conveying anguish, and I don't mean that in a facetious way at all. He really went for the gut when it came to these pieces. And this Dvorak Requiem is fabulously sung. You've got the Czech Chorus Prague, it says here, which is just marvelous. You have a wonderful cast of soloists. They are Stadler, Wagner, Hayfliger, and Kim Borg. And it's an intense and deeply felt performance that's been an iconic version since the dawn of time. Then we get the Stravinsky Violin Concerto with Wolfgang Schneiderhan and the Berlin Philharmonic. And whoa, what a marvelous performance that is as well. I think because Ancerl was really in his element with Stravinsky. I mean, he never touched Stravinsky where it didn't come out fabulously, like the best Les Noces, one of the best, and The Rite of Spring, and Petrushka, and the late Stravinsky stuff he did. It was just wonderful, absolutely wonderful. And this is coupled with Schneiderhan's Prokofiev Second Violin Sonata with Karel Zeman, which, if you want, is fine. It's the original this coupling thing, and last but not least, and maybe best, Shostakovich 10th from 1955 blows away Muravinsky in Leningrad. It's in mono, but really good mono. Wonderful sounding mono. It's possibly the greatest performance of the 10th out there. I mean, there have been many wonderful ones since, but this one is still special. I mean, it has an edge and an urgency and a directness. It just hits you in the solar plexus. It's extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary. And it's also been rather difficult to find. It comes and goes in the catalog all the time. It was a DG original, I think, at one point, but, it's not easy to get your hands on. And the thing that's so amazing, it was recorded in 1955. So it was only a couple of years after the world premiere of the work. I mean, the symphony was brand new, and the Czechs and the Russians were kind of getting along then, kind of, although, how normal people felt about their government was another issue. And wow. I mean, it's as if those Czech musicians are saying to the Russians, ho, 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 yeah, let us show you how it ought to be done. It's extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary. And so, what have we got? You've got 4 phenomenal discs in the box, and you've got 5 not so phenomenal discs in the box. And you will decide, depending on whether you have this stuff, whether you need it. It's nice to have it to complete our picture of Ancerl as an artist, as a conductor, and repertoire he never recorded for Superfon or with the Czech Philharmonic, but let's not pretend it's not the Czech Philharmonic. And that's the honest truth. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks so much for joining me. Take care.